Hello there, welcome back to this channel. This is Module 3 Part 2 of Indian Tradition, Culture and Society. Our first topic of this video is Sixth System of Indian Philosophy. 1. Samkhya 2, Yoga 3, Nyaya 4, Vashishika 5, Mitsa 6, Vedanta 1 Samkhya System. The Samkhya philosophy holds that reality is constituted of two principles, one female and the other male, that is Prakriti, Purusha respectively. Prakriti and Purusha are completely independent and absolute. According to this system, Purusha is mere consciousness, hence, it cannot be modified or changed. Prakriti, on the other hand, is constituted of attributes, thought, movement, and the change or transformation of these attributes brings about the change in all objects. The Samkhya philosophy tries to establish some relationship between Purusha and Prakriti for explaining the creation of the universe. The propounder of this philosophy was Kapila, who wrote the Samkhya Sutra. 2. Yoga System. Yoga literally means the union of the two principal entities. The origin of yoga is found in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, believed to have been written in the 2nd century BC. By purifying and controlling changes in the mental mechanism, yoga systematically brings about the release of Purusha from Prakriti. Yogic techniques control the body, mind and sense organs. Thus this philosophy is also considered a means of achieving freedom or mukti. This freedom could be attained by practicing self-control, yama, observation of rules, niyama, fixed postures, asana, breath control, pranayama, choosing an object, pratyahara, and fixing the mind, dharana, concentrating on the chosen object, dhyan, and complete dissolution of self, merging the mind and the object, samadhi. Yoga admits the existence of God as a teacher and guide. 3. Nyaya. Nyaya is considered as a technique of logical thinking. According to Nyaya, valid knowledge is defined as the real knowledge, that is, one knows about the object as it exists. For example, it is when one knows a snake is a snake or a cup is a cup. Nyaya system of philosophy considers God who creates, sustains and destroys the universe. 4. Vashishika System. Vashishika System is considered as the realistic and objective philosophy of universe. The reality according to this philosophy has many bases or categories, which are substance, attribute, action, genus, distinct quality and inherence. Vashishika thinkers believe that all objects of the universe are composed of 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire and ether, space. They believe that God is the guiding principle. The living beings were rewarded or punished according to the law of karma, based on actions of merit and demerit. Creation and destruction of universe was a cyclic process and took place in agreement with the wishes of God. Kannada wrote the basic text of Vashishika philosophy. A number of treatises were written on this text, but the best among them is the one written by Prashastapada in the 6th century AD. 5. Mimsa. Mimsa philosophy is basically the analysis of interpretation, application and the use of the text of the Sanhita and Brahmana portions of the Veda. According to Mimsa philosophy, Vedas are eternal and possess all knowledge, and religion means the fulfillment of duties prescribed by the Vedas. The essence of the system according to Jamini is dharma, which is the dispenser of fruits of one's actions, the law of righteousness itself. This system lays stress on the ritualistic part of Vedas. 6. Vedanta. Vedanta implies the philosophy of the Upanishad, the concluding portion of the Vedas. According to Vedanta philosophy, Brahman is true, the world is false and self and Brahman are not different. Shankaracharya believes that the Brahman is existent, unchanging, the highest truth and the ultimate knowledge. He also believes that there is no distinction between Brahman and the self. The knowledge of Brahman is the essence of all things and the ultimate existence. Among different schools of philosophy was found one philosophy which reached the climax of philosophic thought that the human mind can possibly reach, and that is known as the Vedantic philosophy. Vedanta philosophy has ventured to deny the existence of the apparent ego, as known to us, and in this respect Vedanta has its unique position in the history of philosophies of the world. Our next topic is Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is a commonly used title of heads of monasteries called mathas in the Advaita Vedanta tradition. The title derives from Adi Shankara. Teachers from the successive line of teachers dating back to him are known as Shankaracharyas. Adi Shankara set up 4 monasteries known as mathas, in the north, south, east and west of India, to be held by realized men who would be known as Shankaracharyas. They would take on the role of teacher and could be consulted by anyone with of a spiritual nature. 4 monasteries known as mathas. These 4 monasteries are situated in 4 different directions, that is east, west, north and south. Now we will study about Bhakti Movement, Sufi Movement and Socio-Religious Reform Movement of 19th century. 1. Bhakti Movement. Bhakti is devotional worship of God. Remember that a very thin line divides love, riti, and bhakti, devotion. In the songs of Bhakti poets, it is not easy to decide whether the poet is talking of God or his/her lover. 9 kinds of bhakti in relation to God. Gods have been identified. Sravanam Kirtanam Visno Smaranam Padsevanam Akanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam. Hearing about him, reciting, remembering and serving at the feet of Vishnu, worshipping. Saluting and serving him, by becoming a friend to him and entreating him, are 9 forms of bhakti. Bhakti has a very long tradition in India, and in fact in Mahabharata there is a reference to it. The Bhakti movement, as we know it, originated in Tamil Nadu in the 6th century with the Alvar and Nayanma poets. Bhakti was a pan-Indian subcontinental social and cultural movement that extended itself in different parts of India for more than 1500 years. Bhakti poets composed, sang and performed their poems through which they presented knowledge and devotion of Upanishads, Puranas written in Sanskrit in simple languages of people, Lokbhasas. The Alvar saints of Tamil Nadu from the 6th century onwards, the Nayanmas, Akayas, Virasaivar of Karnataka, Sufis and mystics from all parts of the country, people from different regions, religions and professions and backgrounds participated in it. For instance, Kabir was a weaver, Radas a cobbler, Mirabai from royal background, Narsi and Tulsidas Brahmins, Malik Muhammad Jayasi and Bulle Shah Muslims. Around the 14th century, it took northern India in its sweep, and it became a movement of masses, as it branched out into forms of worship of God, Nirguna non-attributive and Saguna attributive. 2. Sufi Movement. The term Sufi derived from Arabic word safa, which means purity. The doctrine of Sufism was based on union with God, which can be achieved through love of God, prayers, fasts and rituals without reference to Hindu or Muslims. It stressed that cultivation of religious experience should be based on the direct perception of God. The Sufi orders were divided into 2, Ba-Shara, those who followed the Islamic law, and Bishara, those who were not bound by Islamic law. 3. Socio-Religious Reform Movement of 19th century. Socio-religious reforms in the 19th century provided the soil for growth of Indian nationalism. The main reason of emergence of the reform movements was spread of Western education and liberal ideas. These reforms, as we all know, started in Bengal and soon spread in all parts of India. We note here that these movements were largely confined to specific regions, specific religions and evolved in different parts of the country on different times. Despite of that, there were certain similarities in them. All demanded changes in society through social or education reforms. The key areas of their focus included social issues such as emancipation of women's problems, sati, female infanticide, widow remarriage, women's education etc., questioning the casteism and untouchability, and religious issues such idolatry, polytheism, religious superstitions and exploitation by priests. Now we will study about types of reform movement. 1. Reform from within. The advocates of this method believed that a reform can be effective if it emerged from within the society itself and it should create a sense of awareness among the people. For instance, Raja Ram Mohan Roy believed that philosophy of Vedanta was based on principle of reason, and there is no need of blind reliance of India's own past or blind aping of West. He believed that India should learn from West, not copy the West. He was ardent defender of Hindu religion and staunch critic of Christian missionaries. 2. Reforms through legislation. This method believed that reforms cannot be effective unless supported by the state. Therefore, they appealed to the government to give legislative sanction for reforms like civil marriage, widow remarriage, and increase in the age of consent. 3. Reform through symbol of change. This method represented radical reform such as attack on old customs and rejection of traditional archaic social norms of Indian society. Henry Louis Vivan Desrosiers and his Young Bengal movement came into this category. 4. Reform through social work. As per this method, the question whether a social reform was having religious sanctions or not is an immaterial. This method included social work such as schools, colleges, missions, hospitals, etc.